Hello everyone, welcome back to my page, Prints and Paints. Today I'm going to do something a little different than the normal intermediate or large mandala projects. This one is quite simple and can be done by any dot mandala artist. I wanted to gear this towards more beginners or anyone who is looking for a different style of a project. So this is a mandala bookmark. It's very simple to make and a small, quick project. I love this because it can act as a multi-purpose project. You can use this obviously as a bookmark, but it can be used as decor in your car. You can hang it from a visor, or you can have a sunroom with hang them alongside of your plants. You can also use them as Christmas ornaments and do Christmas color themes. They're also great for adding extra added bonus to a gift topper. They're just so amazing and simple to make, and I just love them. So I want to show you what we need to do to make this. So this bookmark in particular is sort of like an Aztec inspired bookmark. The colors are similar to that era with the red, coppers, yellow, golds, and turquoise. The design will help us understand and practice our swooshes and also our dot placement. And we're going to paint this design twice, so we're going to do the front and the back of our 4-inch mandala circle. Let's go through some of the materials we're going to need to make this. First and foremost, we're going to use our cardstock. I will make sure I have a link in the description for all the products that are available in this video, and if you would like to purchase them, you can so. But these I bought. These are simple black cardstock. They look like small coasters, and they come in a large package, and you can buy different sizes. I believe these are 4 inches in diameter. We're also going to use these tassels that I purchased on Amazon. So they come in all different colors. Everything I use is usually under $10, so you know. I also bought some of this embroidery yarn from a local craft store, which can also be used for the top portion of the bookmark. You can experiment with this if you want. I like to use an arrangement of colors and maybe you do a few of them and braid them and to give it a more like chunky look. And then I also bought these clasps online. You can get different ones if you like. These are a loop around, and they're very similar to like a loop earring, so to speak. They have the hole which you can tie your string to, and they open up. I like to loop it around the object that I'm going to hang it on, and then clasp it together at the end. So that's the clasps. If you want to use basic jewelry clasps, that's fine, no worries. So the next thing we're going to do, we are going to get a piece of paper, and you're going to trace out the cardstock around the paper and cut it out. All right, and then you're going to want to fold that piece of paper in half and in fourths, so fourths, and then you're going to snip the end until you have your center dot. That is the quick and easiest way to find the center of your dot, of your circle, I should say. And then we also are going to use these stencils, which are from Happy Dotting Company. They are a silicone base, so they form fit to your item. I believe you would normally use these on tea lights and homemade rocks and paperweights, but they act great for a simple line template for small projects like this. So I'm going to use the small one. I'm also pretty sure if you purchase these from their Etsy account, you can get a coupon off on the price. So we're also going to be using acrylic-based paints. There's only 4 colors we are going to use. We're going to use the Americana Deco Art brand, and we're using the Dazzling Metallics, and that is the white pearl. I have the copper and the metallic. I have the Glorious Gold in metallic. It's more of a yellow tone gold instead of the champagne tone. And then I'm also using the Deco Art Desert Turquoise. This is also going to be in a matte based. There's no satin, there's no sheen. I don't like using multi-surface paints because they tend to get tacky. They're kind of sticky when you use them. But if you are going to use them outside, I would recommend using a multi-surface acrylic paint. But if it's indoor, you're fine with using a matte base paint. Okay? And then I'm also might use this Liquitex matte fluid medium. The fluid medium just means that it's going to thin out your paint, whereas if you use the gel medium, it's going to thicken it up. So it's really just a preference on how you want your dots to look. I do like to thin out my paint because my paint will fall flat, but if I want to go back over them with a gel mix, I can do so. So, for example, if you did a first layer, you could do your fluid, lay it down, and then you can also use your gel. We're also going to use our DIY dotting tools that we use. We're also going to use our ball tip stylus. We'll be using a lot of the smaller dotting tools today because of the scale is much smaller. And then I'm also going to use the Artesia's brand watercolor pencil. It's in the color cream just so that we can see it in the backdrop. So we'll put our bookmark aside. And the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to get our paper that we cut out. I like to keep the templates because then I can always refer back to them when I want to make this. So it's good to keep them in a safe spot. And it's already cut out and ready to go for you. So we want to find the center dot just by putting a small dot with our pencil. We're going to zoom in a little so that you can see what we're doing. Okay, and then we're going to get our happy dotting stencil and we're going to line up where the points meet. Okay, and this is how we use it. It doesn't matter how it's shifted as long as your centered dot is lined up in the middle. We quickly want to sketch out all of the lines. Okay guys, so we finished our stencil and we're going to put this aside now, and we don't need our pencil anymore. Now we're going to start dotting. I'm going to pull down my already made bookmark as a reference just so we could see what we're doing. And the first color we're going to start with is our white pearl. I'm just going to get myself a little tray and I'm going to add, I'd say about a teaspoon, maybe a half a teaspoon of paint. And then my fluid, I'd like to show this to you guys. I want to show you how to mix this. Sometimes people put too much or not enough. I want to show you how little you actually need of this and how long it will last you. So I say I have about a half a teaspoon of white pearl paint, and I'm going to add just about 3 dots of fluid. That's all I'm going to need for this. I'm using this stylus. They have a little bit of a silicone tip to the end of it. I know a few people have asked, what do you use these for? And I simply use them just to mix my paints. I don't know what they're really for, but they work. So we're going to mix our paint. Deco Art is a great paint to use right out of the bottle as is. Some other generic brands did need to be watered down or thickened up. So depending on the paint brand you have, I do recommend Deco Art is just a really great paint to use. But please, use whatever you like. Okay, so what we need to do first is we're going to use our largest tool for this. The variation of dotting tools that we're going to use, but the largest is going to be the size 10 dotting tool. And that's just going to be our center dot. So we're going to carefully want to dot the center dot where that X is the best you can, and then you're done with the tool. So you're going to clean that off and set it aside. Now we're going to do the series of gold dots that taper around the metallic pearl color. So those gold dots right there we're going to do. That's going to be the size 5 dotting tool. These are in the DIY mandalas. And so we're going to use the gold. Let's mix our paints really quickly. Again, just about, I'd say, 1/4 teaspoon for this one, or a half, and a few dots of the fluid medium. You can use water, but sometimes water can break up your dots as you paint. So I'm going to mix my copper as well. And then also my turquoise I'm going to mix. You can mix all of these ahead of time. They're not going to dry out on you, especially if you add some of the fluid medium to it. So let's just mix these up real quick. There's our gold mixed up. I'm going to clean that off. To our turquoise. I like the little trays. I used to use the caps, but I know they've just become really messy, and they just become a hassle when you're trying to open up your bottles of paint and whatnot. So I've upgraded and trying to, stay a little neater with painting, especially now that I'm showing how all of you to paint mandalas. And so trays are kind of nice. Alright, so what we're basically going to do is we're going to do our north, south, east, and west, and then we're going to do our X. You will have basically 8 points that are already mapped out on your stencil. So we're going to basically, at the ends of the lines, kind of in between the white dot and the line, is where we're going to place these gold dots. So let me show you the first one. Just like that, okay? It's literally next to the white dot. You just don't want to be on the white dot so that the paint mixes together. Okay, so there we go, just like that. It kind of resembles a little bit of a flower. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is we're going to flip the dotting tool around and use the size 6 dotting tool. And we're going to use our color copper. The copper is now basically going to mimic the gold. We're just going to do it right below it on that line. So kind of right when that's first layer of the round lines for the template, that's where you want it to end. Okay. Good. So this is going to be a very quick tutorial, hopefully, if things go according, right? So we're going to go back to our white again, and we're going to use the number 2 tip. It's the ball tip stylus. You can also use the number 2 in the DIYs. And in between the gold dots, just above the copper ones, we're going to do one small dot. Good. So, okay. Let's clean that off. Now I'm going to switch off and I'm going to use the white dotting tool. This is probably a size 1. And we're going to walk our dots using this tool. So at the end of the copper, where it's lined up with the gold, we want to dot one dot, and then I'm going to walk those dots down to where the line is in between the gold and the copper. So again, you're going to dot over the center dot like that, and then walk the dots down. I know it's going to be very small, but we are working with a very much smaller scale, so I find it appropriate to use the size 1. Okay, so we're done with the number 1 stylist. We're almost halfway done already. Okay, so the next part we're going to do is alternate the copper and the gold colors. So we're going to use our number 6 dotting tool, and we're going to, where the copper dots were, we're going to put gold. So just where the tip of the line is, we're going to place our gold dot. So that's where the dot's going to fall. That's where your reference was going to want to be. Okay, so we're done with our gold. Now we're going to do our copper. So again, the number 6 dotting tool. And we're going to do the negative spaces in between the gold. Same concept at the end of the tip of the line. Let's zoom out a little. Good. And just dot every single one. Okay. I also have found a few tricks that when you dot the dotting tool straight down into the paint, sometimes you don't pick up enough paint, but if you do swirl it lightly and pull up, you get a nice amount of paint on the tip. So try that technique sometime and swirl your dotting tool Okay, so now we're going to go back in between these two copper dots where the walking dots are with the white. Right in between those, we're going to add a pop of color with the turquoise. We're going to go with the number size 2 stylus, and we're going to add one dot in each area. So there's no guidelines, so I'm just going to eyeball and just make sure I'm above the copper dot. Okay, and then we're going to do another one just like that, and we're just going to go all the way around. Okay, good. So we finished our turquoise. We're going to keep going with the same dotting tool. And we're just going to clean off our dotting tool and, start fresh. Same technique. And we're going to do it below the gold now. So right before the circle line starts, right underneath the gold. And just the gold, not the copper. I really do love doing these kinds of projects. In the summer, I have a sunroom and I hang these with my plants, and my children love doing these as well. If you have children or grandchildren, get them involved in painting. It warms my heart to see what goes through their mind when coming up with their own designs. It's a great release too, and you feel proud of your job when you finish your artwork. Okay, so our copper's finished. Turquoise is finished. So we're going to do a series of 2 dots this time. We're going to use our pearl white again. And we're going to use the size 5. And then afterwards, we're going to use the size 2. So the 5 is going to be right below the copper dot. So sort of like how we did the turquoise, but just with a larger size. So the pearl white's going to be a little bit larger. It's going to go over that line just a little bit, and that's okay. Just try to line it up with the copper the best you can, though. Okay, so now we're going to go with our number 2. And now we're going to do another dot. And we're going to do it right below that. Okay? And just try to keep the dots straight as if they're following a line down. When I first started painting, I learned on these little cardstock circles, and I made a ton of them. I would put all my ideas on these, see? And they weren't great then, but they were a good practice, and it helped me come up with great ideas to become a much larger scale too in learning larger mandalas. But I have so many of them that I decided to make the bookmarks out of them. Okay, so we're finished up that. Good. Okay, so yay, we're going to move on to doing our swooshes. So we're going to stick with our number 2 dotting tool. And we're going to use the copper color. I'm going to start under the turquoise with the swoosh, and I'm basically just dotting that dotting tool a few times, almost like it's pulsating, and then I pull it down to about half of that line. Okay. So once again, you're going to want to dot a few times to get some of that paint off, and then pull towards you slowly to about the halfway mark. There we go. You zoom in and see how much paint is on there, see? And dot, pulsate, and pull down. Okay, so we finished our copper. The next we're going to move on to is using our blue stylus. And I'd say it's about a size 3. So if you wanted to use your DIYs, you could use a size 3. And we're going to use our gold. I'm going to dot the gold after the white dots. And I'm just going to pull that down just until the line is just a little bit below the line. And we're going to just do that for every single one of the white dot areas. I like this project in particular because it has a little bit of everything to practice. You have your walking dots, you have your swooshes, and you have your dot placement. So it's a good exercise to practice. Okay, so now we're going to go with the same size, the size 3, and we're going to go with the turquoise color. So you see these negative spaces I have? We're going to use our size 3, and we're going to dot kind of in the center. I'd say a little bit where the gold is. And then pull that down past that last line there. So I'd say where the gold is, you want to line up the turquoise. Don't go too far past the line though, because we do want to do our border of our white dots. So keep that in mind when you're pulling those swooshes down. Okay. I really do like using the metallic colors. They really just make everything pop. I am curious as to what color palettes you all like. Is there anything in particular you guys like or would want me to try out? I'm definitely interested in your opinions on it. Okay, so we've completed the swooshes. So now our last part is our pearl white, and we're going to go back with our number 5 tool, and we're going to dot just the perimeter around the edge of the circle. Make sure that you keep those dots spaced apart, but so that they're not touching. Okay. Okay, and there we go. So we have finished our mandala bookmark. Remember that once this dries, you're gonna want to flip this over and do the other side in the same process. Once your finished product is dried on both sides, you'll want to get a hole puncher and punch 2 holes, one on the top and one on the bottom. You'll want to get your tassel picked out. So this actually did have a lot of colors to it. This is only a quarter of what I have left. So you'll want to pick out, I like to pick out a color that's similar to my palette. So maybe turquoise or the gold yellow, maybe red. I think it just ties in nicely with having similar palette colors. And then you just want to loop the tassel through. It's fairly easy to do. The hole puncher I bought was from Hobby Lobby. I think you could find them online as well. So the top portion, you just want to add your embroidery string and then attach a clasp. If you'd like to see some of the different designs I have made, you can check out my Etsy account. Anyway, I hope you appreciate this project. I really wanted to reach out to the beginners, and I'll try to make more videos geared to simple and easy ideas. I've been painting for about 5 years, so I too in the beginning wasn't that great, and it was frustrating, and I wanted to do small projects. So I want to say thank you for all staying here and checking out my videos. Don't forget to give it a like, and if you can subscribe for future videos, I'd appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next tutorial. So, happy dotting, guys. Bye.